It's a really exciting day for me. The basketball guys from my college years at St. John's University back in the 80s. And we have Coach Ron Stewart here, and we also have Robert Carnegie. So thank you guys for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
Wonderful. Thanks.
Thank you, Ginger.
You guys got a long handshake.
Yeah, you didn't even have to get up. Right?
I didn't have to get up. Thank you for coming to the show. You're up from Georgia.
Yes, drove down from Georgia yesterday.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Well, thanks for coming in and being part of the show, coming back. The last time you were here, you brought a whole bunch of kids from France.
From France, yes, from my basketball camp. And I had a great time, so I figured I'd come back and see you again.
Yeah, great, wonderful. Yeah, and you brought some friends in the audience, so thanks a lot for that. And Robert, welcome back.
Thank you.
You were one of my earliest guests when I first started the show.
Yes.
We've all grown up.
I'm excited. We have all grown up. I was not elected when I was on your show last
Yeah, you're part of New York City. You're a New York City Council person.
Yes.
Wow. And you're part of the Bed-Stuy Crown Heights district in Brooklyn?
Yes.
Wonderful. I saw you a lot on the news, unfortunately, when those police officers were killed recently. But you did a really great job with your interviews.
Thank you.
Yeah. What was it like to have those police officers killed in your neighborhood?
Obviously, that was a terrible occurrence, and I would obviously take this opportunity to say, you know, to the families, they were members of our community. Those officers, they were part of a task force that reduced crime by 32%. So they were really, you know, obviously we don't have the same, we don't miss them as much as their family do, but they were family to us in a different way. So we do want to say to their families that they have our deepest sympathy.
Yeah, it was such an outpouring for the city, you know, for that. And you really spoke very well with a lot of the interviews that you were there.
You know, the funny thing is, I was one of the first people on the scene because we were actually on our way, the 79th precinct was giving toys to 6,000 children who were in a school. So in the car, we got the call to be on the scene. So a lot of people say, how did you get there so fast? We were actually going to work with the local precinct on a toy giveaway for Christmas.
Wow.
So, you know, it was awful. And the police department, in getting the radio call, their first response was to lock down the building and protect the kids. Wow. So a lot of people don't know that. And that was the relationship, the ongoing relationship between the police and the community in my community. So.
A lot of work that you do, boy.
And a lot of work to be done, but you know.
And what about you, Coach Stewart?
Still coaching the kids. You know, I have my transition game program out in Georgia that I brought back from France.
Private coaching for children.
Yes, private coaching for kids, but you know, the emphasis is not particularly on basketball. My real drive is to kind of get inside the kids' head, inside their hearts, and find out, you know, what their potential is outside of basketball, and work to build that. At the same time as building good basketball players. Yes.
What's the age range of the people that you like to work with?
The age range usually is from 8 to about 13, 14. I work below that and above that. But for my program, I think that's the most effective age range.
That was the age range of the children that you had in here a couple of years ago,
yes.
And God bless, you know, that you had all those children from another continent, you know, and traveling around here in New York City. But it was fun. I guess it was. I bet it was fun for them.
It was fun.
Yeah.
But a challenge.
Yeah.
I really didn't anticipate, you know, the traveling on mass transit with the kids, and that was pretty intense.
When I grew up in the Midwest, small town, rural community, and I studied French in high school, and our French teacher took us on a trip to France and London, Paris and London. And it was so exciting, but most teachers take them when they're like 16 to 18 years old. You had them like half that age.
Yeah, but that's a whole other problem at 15, 16 years old.
Well, we don't want to go to bed. Right?
Well, don't want to go to bed, then you know you got that hormonal problem that starts to kick in, and you know, so that's a whole other problem. But yeah, I think between 8 and 13, 8 and 14 are ages I like to touch the kids. Yeah.
And you were a professional coach in France, right?
Yes.
For a long time.
Yes.
Right? I bumped into you in a deli. I bumped you into a deli, too.
In New York.
Right.
It's a small world. It's a small world, yeah. But I was in France for about 18, 19 years. And played professionally, coached professionally there, was a GM there. And, you know, I was over the youth program in our club. So a lot of experience with kids.
Wonderful. And you have a degree in counseling?
Yes, I have my master's degree in school counseling. So, you know, I'm not within the school system, but I'm still able to somewhat apply it to what I'm doing.
Okay, good, good. It's not like psychology where you could recognize mental illness in any of us or anything like that.
I don't go that deep.
And what about you, Robert? You were talking about got an MBA. You're actually going for a PhD now.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes.
Wow.
So
Good for
it's
you.
funny because I was just thinking about Stu and having to deal with the kids. I have my own kids. And
A lot of them?
A lot of them, but not as many as he has in terms of having to, I don't know, you know, sometimes I love my kids, but I don't necessarily like them. So I don't know how he deals with the kids in that volume.
Yeah.
So my hat is off to him. You can have that job.
You know, it's funny because I've always been pulled towards kids, bad kids. You know, at a very young age, I always had a passion for kids, but I've always been drawn towards kids that have, you know, difficulty in whatever capacity, and
they need direction. Hey, listen, you know, I was way out in the Midwest, and it was great that city people moved out that way and kind of gave me a direction of what I wanted to do, even though I didn't think it was possible. So I think it's wonderful that you can step into that role and be a counselor, director for. You never know how you're going to influence people.
Yeah.
Right? Give them hope. That's the main thing, right?
That's it.
They might not have hope or direction from their home families.
I think, you know, Rob and I have a wealth of experience, whether it be academically or socially, and you know, especially at my age, you know, I think that's all we have left. For me, for myself personally, you know, you want to leave a legacy. You want to once you leave here, you want to still be here, kind of, sort of, and that's what my focus is. That's what I'm trying to do.
Wonderful. And how long have you been back in the United States now?
I actually moved back August 2013, so I haven't been back that long. Came here with a totally another project, but that didn't work out. It's on standby, and you know, but my heart, my passion, my desire is still kids.
I know.
So.
I've been trying to get you in here forever. Forever. Like, I keep calling. Are you ready? Can you be here? Are you in New York? I mean, this has been going on at least a year and a half.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
a challenge.
after
It's a challenge. It's a challenge. I'm not around the corner.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, it's great. And then you guys got to see each other for the first time.
Yeah, that's always
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, right. That's one of the fun things about doing the show, and we all see each other on Facebook,
Yeah.
so that's fun. And you're doing a lot of great things, you know, in your neighborhood, Robert. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate, you know, you mentioned Facebook, and I remember when the inception of Facebook and people were saying, oh, that's too much information. And, you know what? I have benefited tremendously by being able to connect with people all over the world, like being able to literally kind of share stories and experiences with Stu in France, who would have thought that, or Chris Ambrose in Hawaii, like, you know, we're all connected, and actually even sometimes I may not like something that he's done, but it's a connection, and I'm aware that he's doing it. Like, so we're really almost in real time being aware, like talk about technology, we're being aware of what each other is doing.
Right.
And when I get inspired by what Ron is doing, whether it's something entrepreneurial or whether it's something working with the kids, you know, I get inspired by that, because we come from a long time ago, and to watch people that you have reverence for do really well inspires you to do well. So he may not know it, but I'm watching. Like, so just because I don't hit the like button, Ron, for whatever reason, you should know that I am watching.
I get that. I mean, but it's reciprocal. I mean, to see, you know, what you're doing and the impact you're having on people's lives, you know. I didn't see that coming. No.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks for your support.
But yeah, I mean, Robert's always been a person that's been a kind of, I guess you can say, a little bit apart. Because I mean, he loved the game, you know. But I just saw so much more in him, and you know, it's just, for me, it's just status quo. Is what he's meant to do is what he's doing now, and that's what I saw in him. I saw somebody that was beyond basketball, that could have a great influence on people. I mean, he has the stature, he's very articulate.
6'10". And what are you, 6'8"?
6'8".
But let me just tell you something about Stu. Stu was a year or two ahead of me in school, right? So he was somebody I kind of looked up to, and could always kind of chill me out when I was going in the wrong direction. So Coach would always get on me because, you know, they thought I had a higher degree of potential as it related to basketball, and I never kind of lived up to that. But Stu never let that, honestly, never let that affect his relationship to me as a friend, right? Because you have this subculture in sports, right? So you have the elite athletes who kind of all hang out together, and you know, now that there's harassment and bullying laws, they don't do the same thing that they used to do. But Stu and a few others always dealt with me on a different level. So they didn't say, hey, you know, you suck, so you can't hang out with us.
Right.
They would always relate to me in my sphere, right? So I always respected Stu for that, right?
Yeah.
I could have clearly been a better athlete had I focused my energies in that direction, but he was my friend outside of that. So whether you know I was going to be a college All-American or not, never seemed to impede with his relationship to me. So I've always respected and appreciated that.
I was an adult competitive swimmer, and I had to learn to swim as an adult. And as I developed up the lanes, a lot of the collegiate swimmers who were adults at that point as well didn't want to talk to me because I was in the lower lanes. And I was like, I don't get it, but I get it, you know?
Yeah.
They're not on TV, we are. What did you do before you came to the show today?
Oh,
Not that I'm going to say that you were late, but...
Fashionably late, though. But I had the pleasure of actually, there's a gentleman, his name is Hank Carter, and maybe 3 decades ago, he began a wheelchair charities organization. And we would compete as young people on this great stage, and the proceeds raised from that went to buy equipment for individuals who either were suffering from some type of paralysis or had some type of ailment that they couldn't find resources for. He would buy. So primarily wheelchairs, i.e. the Wheelchair Classic, which is what we played in. I got an opportunity to go and give my first powered wheelchair on behalf of wheelchair charities to a young person who, it was just a great experience. What he didn't know was I was actually able to bring a city council proclamation to him. So he didn't expect that. He just wanted me to come and give the wheelchair, but he had no idea, just like Stu, how they had touched my life at a very young age. And had that particular classic, we all participated in because it's a great competitive tournament, having no understanding as 15 and 16-year-olds about its relevance to people outside of yourself. And Hank kind of got us to look for 1 second, our selfish little 15 and 16-year-old selves, look at someone else who's in a worse situation than you, some people who can't move every single day. So it was an opportunity to see his work come so far. The hospital that we went is the former Goldwater Hospital, is now named after him. So it's the Hank Carter, not the wing of the hospital, the entire hospital is named after him. And it's like a city block. And it's a specialized hospital.
Where is it located?
It's on 122nd Street and 5th Avenue, and I encourage you, if you ever get a chance, just to visit, to see the tremendous work, not just him, but the doctors and the nurses are doing to give people back some capacity within their lives through the aid of technology, so it's great.
I just broke my foot last year, and I couldn't walk, and I can't imagine being wheelchair bound like forever.
Forever.
Yeah, my dad's been in a wheelchair, I think, for 4 or 5 years, and he still tries to maintain his independence. And you know, you
so
gotta
being a part of helping people maintain their independence was kind of overwhelming. But it also humbled me because I'm thinking, oh, I'm tired. I haven't eaten breakfast today. I'm like, dude, really? Really? You just gave a motorized wheelchair to someone who can only access its mobility through his chin.
Yeah, that's what you were telling us.
Yeah, so really you have no problem.
Or to talk,
right?
through
Or
this?
to talk, right? So they also have adaptive technologies that allow people who literally don't have a voice to type what they're thinking or feeling, and it to be able to be spoken through the machine.
Do you know how much money he's raised?
They say that over his tenure and the start of the program, over 39 million, I think, was the number that they quoted. Absolutely incredible for just a regular guy. Like, this wasn't a guy who had a tremendous amount of means. He had a lot of friends, and he loved the sport of basketball and was able to parlay that into. I was there with some of my state colleagues, Assemblymember Keith Wright, Bill Perkins, Jeff Aubrey, and I took that opportunity to challenge them to a city and state game to raise some money. So
Oh, wow.
I might have bit off more than I could chew, Stu. I might
Well,
need
you
a
got
ringer.
somebody here to play, right?
I may need a ringer.
Cheerleader. I gotta,
It sounded good when I got up to the podium, and then I realized, oh, so now I don't have to play in this. Now these are older guys, though. Some of them have 10 or 15 years on me, so I'm hoping that will help a little bit. But if it's going to bring awareness to this or raise money for it, and if that's something that I can do by spearheading that, I was more than willing to
That's
embarrass
great.
myself at this
I'm
point
so inspired
to do it.
by both of you. I mean, you're taking such a great sport that you've had a lot of fun with, and you know. And what I found interesting with our pre-show conversation is that you were. I asked what was my question was before the show. I was asking what's the difference between basketball now and when you guys were younger. And you mentioned
Yeah,
about
I just think fundamentally wise, we were just so much more focused and locked in on developing our game fundamentals. I mean, I wouldn't, as a youngster, I wouldn't even go and attempt to play with someone if I didn't feel I was apt to do so. And I think today, you know, you have kids that are, I mean, obviously, probably more physically gifted. And
And why is that, though? I mean,
well, I mean,
how can they be physically gifted and not
you
have
just,
the technique?
I just think you have kids that probably start a little bit earlier, running a little bit earlier, so and they're more coordinated. They can run faster, jump higher, but that's not what makes a great basketball player. At the end of the day, I mean, you still have to know how to dribble a basketball and shoot it correctly and pass it correctly. And I'm not saying that it's you know, I think we're still the world leaders in basketball, but you can see with the influx of so many European players that's changing very quickly because they've adopted our system actually, and they teach fundamentals.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, and to your credit, we've got a couple of people that are pro basketball.
yeah, I think that Joakim Noah and Tony Parker, two people that I had the pleasure of working with. But you know,
Just Tony Parker.
No, Joakim Noah.
and Joakim Noah, yeah. But I mean, that's
Pretty serious.
yeah, it's serious. But you know what? I don't take any. That's one thing as a coach that I've never done. I've never taken any credit for you know, kids that have developed, because at the end of the day, they do the work. You know, I've been given a gift and a passion to instill things into kids, but it's up to them to take it and run with it. And
Discipline.
yeah, you know, I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of kids over in France, and hopefully, you know, very soon kids here that will, you know, in my program will just be smart enough to listen to what I have to say and take it and run with it, you know, and that's it.
Do you guys stay in touch with St. John's?
So we have actually, for the first time in a long time, somebody who's responsible for player alumni relations, and has been trying to do a better, Mel Davis, has been trying to do a better job at reconnecting us.
Yeah.
So there's some work that could be done, but so we just a couple of years ago celebrated the 25th anniversary of the Final Four.
I was
brought
there.
people back together. And then Chris Mullin's induction into the Hall of Fame brought us back together. So there have been monumental occasions that have brought us back together. So we're hoping that we can continue that trend. As people are saying, and people are doing great things from St. John's in general, certainly from that very special Final Four team.
Oh, it was so exciting. I had a really hard time in college because I was studying accounting, you know, and boy, was that a tough profession, but a curriculum. But I met you, Ron. You were actually like the first person I knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
St.
knew him when he
John's.
was 18.
You couldn't have picked a better person than 18. You're lucky.
Lucky me.
You're lucky.
And yeah, so I followed you guys all through, you know, the years, and people still talk about that team.
Well,
All I have to say is that
it's been a blessing and a curse, because I mean, blessing because they're still talking about us.
yeah,
you know, so that's
everybody knows about it. I
that's-
mean, I talked to somebody who was at the NCAA game, and he was like in '86. Well, no, it was '85.
Yeah,
You know, he right off the top of his head.
But and a curse also because, you know, it's been almost 30 years now.
Yeah, that is the curse.
We've been back to that level. And speaking on, you know, as far as, you know, the university now going back to connecting to their past, which is tradition is all about. I think we've lost sight of that. I think I saw Zindon Hamilton on the bench now, or behind the bench. And I think that's a start in the right direction. But you know, if you want tradition, you have to have people that have been there and done that. So, you know, I think if we can get, you know, moving that direction, then we might see maybe another Final Four, or maybe go all the way. And you know,
I think that's a good point, though, Ron. I think that that team produced some of people to do the greatest things, especially in the sport.
Unbelievable.
They should really be a place, or probably a lane for them to come back and contribute to the system. And when you think about Mark Jackson, Bill Winnington, Stu, like the list is huge. Chris, like there are people who really in the sport were at the pinnacle of the sport, and to not have them involved in the program, you know, you probably want them involved in the program.
Right. I've been out, you know, even recently, last 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm looking up at the TV monitor, and there's Mark Jackson. And I was like, I'll even take a picture and post it on my Facebook. But I'm not Facebook friends with him, so can you guys hit me up?
I think, you know, I'm very proud of what Mark has gone on to do. I'm very proud of what Chris, I'm very proud of what Stu, I'm very proud of, you know, Bill Winnington is still doing color, I believe, at the Bulls. So, I mean, you know, that network and that resource can certainly benefit the university. Those kind of alumni, and those are guys who were not, I'm proud to say that those are not dumb guys. On top of everything else, on top of them being athletically gifted, academically they were pretty gifted too. So that was a very special team, and people don't know that. But that wasn't a bunch of dumb jocks. People should know that, really.
With a bunch of girls that are like.
No. And speaking of that though, we didn't have the resources that St. John's now has today. I went up to campus. I was lost. I got a call for directions to get places. So it's amazing.
Totally different.
The campus is amazing. They have dorms now, like all of the things that are so amazing. My children are now thinking about going to college, and St. John's is in their list of places. They talk about the dorms. I'm like, Dad, what did you think? I didn't have a dorm room. They're like, oh my God, what kind of stone age did you live in that there were no dorms?
I know.
So
and you
it's
know,
funny.
I actually worked with an architect who designed those dorms.
Wow.
Really?
And I said, when I was in college, I needed them. Where were you? You know, I was off campus.
Right.
But that's how we met, because we lived near each other.
Yeah, right next to
Yeah.
But that was a great experience also to be able to live in an apartment.
That's right.
That early.
Yeah, that early. That was eye opener, to say the least. Yeah.
Any other things that you want to talk about? We have about another 5 minutes or so for the show.
Man, I think that I would just like to say that, you know, I'd like to say something special about Coach Conaseca. I think
thanks for bringing it up. Yeah.
for me, again, I will mention that I wasn't in that top echelon of athlete, but he never treated me differently, and he really helped to develop me as a young man into manhood, right? So that's really what a coach's role kind of is. You take these young kids, basically. I came on campus at 17 years old, right? Because that's how I graduated. I graduated in September.
Well, that's your head of every, because usually it's what?
18
to 22.
Right. So I needed a little bit of extra nurturing and time, and he gave me that, right? So although, you know, he was very creative in his language about things that he wanted from me. I never felt, though, it never crushed my spirit, right? And it's hard to do that when you're playing on that level, and you're developing players, and players may not be developing as fast as you'd like them to develop, to not crush their spirit and bring them along slowly. He was kind of skilled at doing that, and he did that for me. And it was incredible and pretty important for me to be who I am today. Is clearly based on some of the time and attention that he spent with me.
I just think that he was very much in touch with the person and beyond this thing called basketball. And you know, at that time we were the best team in the country. Absolutely. So there's a lot of pressure to continue to win, to maintain that.
The President of the United States came to St. John's during that time, but you had a basketball schedule and you couldn't stick around for him. President Reagan, I was there. He's from Illinois, so we were very proud of him.
Okay.
But it was like, wow, you know, you guys are really serious if you're not hanging around for the president, you know.
But that goes back to what we talked about tradition. I mean, you know, even myself today as a coach, or I would say a mentor to kids, I would be remiss if I didn't say that a lot of that stuff I took from Coach Conaseca and his staff. I remember Coach Labalbo, Coach Al Labalbo, who was deceased. Coach Al Labalbo was like, he was probably one of the best defensive coaches in the country. But Coach's first question to me every day I walked in was, how's things going at the department?
Yep.
You know, how's the schoolwork going? And it wasn't like, you know, questions that I have to ask him. He was like, you're really concerned about it. And I got that. So, you know, now when I work with kids today, I mean, I have so much to pull from, and that's what I mean as far as like just, you know,
Great mentors.
yeah, great mentors, and Coach, you know, Coach, God bless him. I mean, he's 90 years old and still.
I was going to guess 80.
No, he's 90.
90.
Just turned 90.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And he's still, you know, he's still touching lives, and I mean.
And I can't say enough about the nurturing academic environment. I'll never forget Sister Ann Connolly coming to practice one time to tell the coach that she should remove me from the communications program and put me in the writing program. And I'm like, Sister Ann, you can't talk to the coach? Like, you certainly can't come to practice. She was like, no, I really like your writing and I'd like for you to be involved. I was like, well, you might want to schedule an appointment with the coach. You might want to come. And she came to practice.
Oh, that's fine.
Bent on, so, you know, that kind of strict Catholic school environment, that wasn't what was present. A nurturing environment was present, and she worked with me and got me to understand academically what I could achieve academically. Unfortunately, I never achieved it. Not there, at least.
Well, listen, if
Not
you're
there,
going
at least.
for your
Not there.
PhD, I
Yeah,
mean, you're
right,
a little,
right,
you
right.
know,
No. But I'm saying she and others. Right. I just remember Sister Ann because she took that bold step of coming to practice to give the coach a piece of her mind about the program.
Didn't you have Julia serving at your house one time?
I
and then
did.
Like, take out the garbage.
Yeah.
Like,
So just a quick anecdotal
this.
story. I went to his camp at UMass as maybe a 13 or 14-year-old, and there was no one to bring me back to New York. And he was like, "Oh, we're going to Hempstead. We'll give you a ride." So I'm like, I'm gonna ride with Julius Erving, like back to.
How exciting.
So we ride, and he said, you know, the whole ride home, I'm thinking, how am I gonna get him to come in my house? Like, how am I gonna get him to not to just drop me off? So he comes in, and you know, I introduced him to my mom. Now I had been away a few days, so it's garbage time to be taken to the curb. And she was like, listen, you know, I'm like, well, I got company. Like, this is Dr. J. I'm calling people on the phone. Everybody's banging the phone on me because they're like, no, the Dr. J is not at your house. Like, no, you gotta come over right now. And we didn't have cell phones. It wasn't cell phones at that time. So you're calling people at home, please come over. And it was just funny because my mom she was totally unaware to who Dr. J was. Right. But he's the kind of person who he comes into a room and commands the room. So even if you didn't know he was Dr. J, you knew he was someone.
Somewhere.
So she was only concerned that he had brought her baby home.
There's a lot of people that are upstairs in the studios watching through the windows at you guys, so that's great. Very wonderful. All right, everybody, it's that time. Friday afternoon, Ginger New York is closing the show. Thanks for joining in. I think you have one of your staff members here.
Yes, the young Brian Cunningham.
Brian Cunningham, come on up to the stage. Welcome. Thanks for getting him in to the show. I mean,
getting the food.
Oh, yes, make sure.
Oh, and any lateness is attributed to Brian.
Right?
Bad driver.
Oh, bad driver, traffic. Usually it's the traffic excuse. No, we were just starting to be concerned, but we got you here.
Yes.
So I'm grateful for your time. Thank you so much, Mr. Ron Stewart.
Thank you
Fun
very
to
much.
see you.
Good to see you too.
After all these years, yes. And Robert.
Yes,
and
always.
Brian, thank you so much. It was so great to see you all come in. And thank you all for you to come in and watch the Ginger New York TV show every Friday. It was a fun day for me to see my basketball players from my college years all grown up and here on the show. So thank you very much. We'll see you next Friday. And in the meantime, you just be safe and warm and happy Valentine's Day. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.